Okay, good morning, Professor. Welcome to Module 8 Lab. We are going to cover the safety real quick. Um, I've already got everything cleaned up, but I'll show you that's where I did it with the stainless steel. Trash can is right there below the counter. Around the corner through that doorway is the bathroom and the shower with the sink. Another sink. Fire extinguisher was up there. I did use my safety glasses and my gloves. Let's move on to a brief overview for the experiments. We're doing exploring solubility this week for the lab. This one was kind of interesting as well. I've done the putty thing before as a kid, the silly putty. Never had to make my own. We using the guar gum to make basically our own slime. I thought was really good. I've never done anything like that before. That was the first experiment, trying to pull the inks off the papers. The second experiment overview, just flipping pages, determining molar mass from freezing point. So we took 4 different solutions, tried to see when they would start developing ice crystals in a beaker with the test tubes and measuring the temps. So we'll get back to experiment 1, the results. Okay, on the paper we drew 4 lines. One was highlighter, one was permanent ink, one was dry erase, and the other one was a ballpoint pen. So I made the slime. It was happened very quick, actually. When I dumped it in my hand, it was cold. It was very slimy. It didn't pour out, it didn't really stretch. When I dumped it out of the beaker, it came out as all one piece, and it was definitely pliable, and it would tear apart instead of stretching. So we used that on the 4 kinds of ink. And the only one I could get the only 2 I could get the slime to pick up. Excuse me, just the one was the highlighter. I really thought it would pick up the newspaper print, but I just could not see anything on the slime itself. I'll show you the graph here in a minute. The pen, the permanent marker, and the dry erase marker, I went with a no on all 3 trials. Highlighter was a yes on all 3 trials. Going to the silly putty, it definitely picks up newsprint, and it also picked up the dry erase marker. The highlighter, the Uniball roller pen, and the permanent marker were all no on all 3 trials, and the newsprint and dry erase marker were a complete yes on all 3 trials. Then we went to the second half of the first experiment, where we, using distilled water, made a wick with the filter paper and put 4 dots on the filter paper. I used highlighter, permanent marker, dry erase marker, and the ink again from the pen. Let it set for about a half hour, and the only one that moved away was the highlighter, which was kind of neat to watch. I mean, I've seen it happen on paper before just by accident, but not actually doing an experiment. So yeah, the highlighter after about 30 minutes was moved about 4 inches away from my original space where I put the dot. Did the slime pick up water soluble or the water insoluble ink? I would say the highlighter was probably I want to say soluble, but I'm not completely sure because I'm confused on those. It depends on the highlighters, but I believe it is soluble, and that's why the water pushed it away. Water for the polarity of the slime molecules. Water-soluble inks are polar inks. That's what I'm going with on that. Based on the chromatography portion of the experiment, were the inks properly classified as soluble and insoluble? I believe they were. The soluble ink should move away versus insoluble, like the markers and the pen. It's just going to stay there and get wet. It's not going to move. It's not going to do anything. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at my notes here. I'm going to show you my graph real quick so you can see. There's the graph for experiment 1. Next, experiment 2. Doing the test tubes. We got, took a while for the results on this one. There's the table. Those are for the water. I got 0. Glycerol, I got -1, -4, -4. For the temperatures when they started to freeze. So I thought those turned out all right. Then I calculated the molar mass for each. The glycerol was 92.09382. Sodium chloride was 58.44, and the calcium chloride was 110.98. I gotta get moving. I'm gonna run out of time. The experiment seemed to work very well. I just thought it was. It took a while for the temperatures to drop down to where they finally rested and started getting some ice crystals in the liquid. Next, critical thinking. In your own words, why water expands. We are water has a lower density when it's in its solid form than its liquid form. And I believe this is due to extra volume when it is ice. And this is, I believe, is due to hydrogen bonding, and it occurs when polar ends with opposite charges of water molecules get attracted to other water molecules. So that's the critical thinking, self-reflection. I just the lab activities best help clarify you for me was I just went with molar mass and the learning about the hydrogen bonding in the polar ends, and that's it for this module for this lab. Thanks. If you have any questions, please ask.